What is the suitability of the tile installation system for a particular tile installation? In this video, we're going to talk about floor installation systems. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so we're going to talk about floor installation systems in this episode, and let's start off with where this information actually comes from. It comes from the ASTM C627 document. The ASTM is, if you're not sure what that means, is the American Society for Testing and Materials, and what it does is basically sets the standard for different installation systems that can be applied in different situations and what their ratings is, and we're going to get into that in a second. So first of all, very important to understand that not every installation method when it comes to tile is applicable in all situations. Obviously all floors are different and all situations are different. So when you look at a situation where you're installing tile in a car dealership versus a lobby versus a bathroom floor, obviously these type of floors are not the same. The kind of traffic, the type of force load that's going to be imposed on these floors are also going to be very different. So that's why they've developed different types of installation systems for different applications. And the ASTM C627 is the method that's been used to assess those things and give it a standardization. And how they do it, just briefly, is using something called the Robinson floor test method. And basically what it does is it do some few cycles that it goes through. We'll talk about the details in a separate episode, but these cycles, the number of times that a particular installation lasts through a certain number of cycles of this test determines what the suitability of this installation system is. If I'm not confusing you already, an installation system is a method for installation based on series of characteristics about the installation that makes it suitable for that situation. So what are the categories that we're working with here? So we have residential installation systems, we have something called light commercial installation systems, we have moderate commercial installation systems, and then we have heavy, and we also have extra heavy. And we're going to go into those details right now. A residential installation system basically is a type of system where you can apply it in kitchens, in bathroom, in foyers, only in a residential settings. And just to kind of give you kind of a background knowledge here, on the Robinson floor test method, that's about 1 to 3 cycles that it goes through, and so it can last. After that, it breaks down, and so then we need to apply it into a different type of test that would work at a higher level. So these methods, by the way, of installation systems are all clearly defined by the TCNA or the TTMAC institutes, and these installation methods are not made up. So just so you understand, all these methods and installation systems have already been well documented. As installers, basically what we're doing is we're assessing the situation, we're seeing the kind of workload that's going to be imposed on that floor, we're looking at all these things, and then we're selecting an appropriate installation system for that particular situation. Then moving on. So light commercial, we're going through 1 to 6 now Robinson cycles. So basically it goes through 6 cycles and it can still last. And these are the situations where you see a light commercial, or where it's like an office in a building, a reception area, or like an office kitchen, or like an office bathroom. So these are obviously more exposed to different kind of traffic, perhaps even different type of workload as well. So getting into the next level is the moderate commercial. And now these are installation systems that apply to things like institutions like schools, restaurants, hospitals. These are the kind of scenarios where you would never use the type of installation method for the floor that is appropriate for like a residential. You would never use that. So now we're going to get into like heavy. Heavy is the next category. Heavy is like things like shopping malls, any kind of retail store, commercial kitchens, labs, automobile dealerships, like shipping, receiving type places. And these are obviously going to be exposed to much heavier type of traffic. That's important. So what we don't want in this situation is apply the wrong installation system or method in those situations that have tiles cracking. Even if you use the right materials and all that, it's really relevant to the installation system. For instance, in this particular application, in a Robinson test that's done, this installation system will last 12 cycles on the Robinson floor test method. The next one is the extra heavy, and this is the top of the line installation system, and this is usually applied in cases like food plants and dairies, breweries, and they usually require quarry tiles, which are kind of a very rough kind of tiles, very different makeup, and they're very suited because they have a very good slip resistance as well, but this is a different thing. And this kind of installation lasts 14 cycles within the Robinson floor test. So why is this important? Well, depending on what kind of area that that's going to be applied to, a different installation system needs to be used. And sometimes, you know, you don't need to be in a certain category if it doesn't necessarily need it. So let's say you're in a you're tiling a you know, an office building, or like, let's just say it's very simple, like a dentist office. That's considered a light commercial category. And you go ahead and say, oh, now we need to use the heavy, you know, installation system there. Well, you can, but now you're going through costs, you're going through things that you necessarily don't need to do because that particular scenario does not require that type of installation. So that's, you know, what I want to talk about installation systems, very important. In another video, what we're going to talk about is, now this was more to do with floors, we're going to also talk about walls, because walls also are categorized in this way. So when you're working with a contractor, it's very important to understand that or ask them, you know, what installation method are you using? Because if they're using a particular method, and they say, yeah, we're going to put your tiles, we're going to install your tiles, well, how are you doing it? And what is that installation method? Has it been documented in the TCNA or the TTMAC handbooks? That's a problem, because if you don't ask that question and they just come and install it the way they feel like installing it, and it's the same way they install it in a residential bathroom as they're going to install it in a, for instance, an office building or like a car dealership, take the chances here, and you're taking a risk, and they may not know it. You know, at least you have that, you know, to ask those right questions ahead of time and get that background knowledge before that installation starts. Thanks very much for watching, and see you in the next video.